At Thanksgiving, my sister blamed my 12-year-old for $50,000 missing from our family safe, demanding she be taught a lesson. A week later, I showed them security footage of her planting evidence and walked out as she lost her marriage, her reputation, and every dollar she'd stolen. Hey, Reddit. My family always looked down on me and treated my daughter like a problem. I tried to stay quiet and keep the peace, but then they crossed a line I couldn't ignore. Before I explain how bad it got, let me start from the beginning. I'm Sandra P. Cox. I'm 36. Work in cybersecurity for a mid-sized company. And most days, I feel like I'm treading water. I rent a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town with my daughter, Noah. She's 12, smart in a way that makes adults uncomfortable, and spends more time building robots out of scrap parts than talking to other kids. It's just the two of us. Her dad left when she was 3, and I never remarried. By the time I logged out of work that Thursday, traffic was already crawling. I was supposed to be at my parents' place by 6 o'clock for the usual monthly dinner. It's never really about dinner. It's about them reminding me where I stand. I swung by the robotics lab to pick up Noah, who was still soldering something to a small wheeled contraption. "You're late," she said without looking up. "I know, kiddo, let's move. Grandpa's probably checking his watch already." She packed her gear into a backpack and we got on the road. The whole drive, I could feel that mix of irritation and dread I always feel before these dinners. My dad, Thomas, built a small construction company into a multi-state operation and never lets anyone forget it. My mom, Margot, treats reputation like oxygen. My sister, Olivia, and her husband, Jack, are basically living the perfect family Instagram feed. Big house, 2 kids, matching sweaters. We pulled into the long driveway just after 7. The house looked like it was cut out of a magazine. Trimmed hedges, lights on timers, spotless windows. My dented Civic looked ridiculous next to Jack's imported SUV. Thomas opened the door before I even knocked. "Late again," he said, glancing at his watch. "Maybe leave 5 minutes earlier next time." "Traffic," I said, stepping in. Noah followed close behind. "Always traffic," he muttered. Margot kissed Noah on the head, but wiped a spot on her shoulder after. "How's school, sweetheart? Any behavioral issues we should know about?" she asked, her voice sugary. "No," Noah said, staring at the floor. In the dining room, Jack was already pouring himself sparkling water, grinning like he owned the place. I'd heard through a coworker who knew someone at his firm that they'd had a rough quarter. Layoffs, restructuring, the works. But nobody at this table would ever admit it. "Inflation's brutal, huh, Sandra? Want me to spot you a little advance before dessert?" I forced a laugh. Olivia appeared from the kitchen, all smiles. "Sit up straight, Noah, shoulders back." We took our usual seats at the long table. Dinner was roasted something or other with too many sides. The conversation stayed light until my dad leaned back in his chair and sighed. "I had $3,000 go missing from the office safe last week," he said. "No signs of forced entry. It's strange." Nobody responded right away. "That's concerning," Margot said. Jack shrugged. "Probably miscounted, right?" "Maybe," Thomas said. "But I don't miscount, and only family has access." The silence that followed wasn't long, but it was heavy. His eyes drifted from Olivia to Jack, then landed on me, then Noah. My mom cleared her throat and changed the subject, but I felt Noah shift in her chair. I focused on helping her with a math worksheet she'd brought along, pretending not to notice how the adults' conversation circled back to responsibility and trust. Noah wrote answers quietly while I pointed to the next problem. After dessert, we lingered in the living room while Thomas lectured Jack about expansion plans. Before we left, he walked us to the door. "I'm putting in a new safe next week," he said. "Top-of-the-line biometric lock." "Probably a good idea," I said. He nodded and added, "Only 4 people will have access. Me, your mother, Olivia, and Jack. So, if anything else goes missing, we'll know exactly where to look." His eyes landed on me for a beat too long. Or who might have helped. It wasn't even subtle. I felt my jaw tighten, but kept my mouth shut. Noah was already halfway down the driveway. The ride home was quiet. Streetlights flickered by as Noah stared out the window. "Did I do something?" she asked finally. "No," I said. "You didn't." But I could already feel where this was heading. The looks, the little comments. They decided someone was to blame, and they were circling around us. The next time we went over there, the air felt different. It was a Sunday afternoon, about a week after that dinner. We were barely through the front door when Margot came gliding out of the hallway with this tight smile. "Your father's watch is gone," she said like she was announcing the weather. "What watch?" I asked. "The PC he bought in Geneva." The custom one, she said, and her eyes flicked right over to me before sliding to Noah. It was in the study drawer. He's had it for years. I didn't respond because there wasn't anything I could say. Instead, I told Noah to hang up her jacket, and we followed her into the living room where Dad was pacing with a phone in his hand. It's probably misplaced, I said. You misplace things all the time, Mom. She gave me a look that made it clear this wasn't about a watch. Thomas stopped pacing and held up his phone. It's not misplaced. The drawer was open. I always keep that drawer closed. No one spoke. Olivia sat on the couch, flipping through a magazine, pretending she wasn't listening. Jack leaned against the mantel. It's a shame, Jack said, tossing a brochure on the coffee table. I was just reading about this boarding school upstate. They've got a great program for kids who need a little more structure. Discipline teaches responsibility. I stared at him. He smiled back like he just offered me a coupon. Olivia spoke without looking up. I did see Noah near the office door last week, she said. Just for a second when we were all upstairs. Maybe she was curious. Kids are curious. It was a casual tone, but the words weren't casual. Noah was sitting in the corner with her backpack, sketching something in a notebook. Her pencil stopped moving. We're not doing this, I said. Doing what? Olivia asked. We're just talking, Dad sighed, the way he always does when he wants to sound disappointed instead of angry. I've tried to be patient, he said, but we have to be realistic. If something else goes missing... It won't, I said, sharper than I meant to. The rest of the visit was short. I made an excuse about homework, and we left before dinner. Noah didn't talk on the drive home, just stared out the window like she did last time. At one point, she asked if she could skip the next visit. I told her no, but I understood why she wanted to. Back at the apartment, she went straight to her room. I cleaned up the kitchen and sat at the table, scrolling through emails I wasn't really reading. Every few minutes, I replayed what Olivia said, what Jack said, what they didn't say. They weren't just hinting anymore. They were building a story. Later that night, I went into Noah's room. She was reading, headphones in, but I could tell she hadn't really been reading for a while. You know you didn't do anything wrong, right? I asked. She nodded but didn't look up. They think I did. They're wrong, I said, and we'll prove it. She nodded again, slower this time. By the time Friday rolled around, I'd ordered a few things online. A discrete motion cam shaped like a smoke detector, a backup battery pack, cloud sync capability, and 2 spare micro SD cards for redundancy. If this kept going the way it was going, I needed proof. Not speculation, not gut feelings, proof. 2 days later, Thomas showed off the new biometric safe he'd installed in the study. It was bolted to the wall now with a digital keypad and a fingerprint scanner. Access is limited, he said. Me, your mother, Olivia, and Jack. I nodded. Makes sense. He didn't say my name, and he didn't need to. Noah stood behind me, looking at the safe, like it was a loaded gun. She stayed close to me the whole visit, never wandering more than a few steps away. And every time someone mentioned the missing watch, she tensed up. Thanksgiving has always been a performance in my family. Same house, same perfect table settings, same overpriced candles that smell like wood smoke. The only thing that changes is how uncomfortable I feel walking through that door. This year was no different. Noah and I stopped at a bakery on the way and picked up a pumpkin pie because I didn't have time to make one. As soon as we stepped inside, Margot greeted us with her usual half smile. Homemade is always better, she said, taking the box from me. But this is fine. Noah glanced up at me, and I gave her a small shrug. It wasn't worth saying anything. We followed her into the dining room. The usual magazine spread setup. Perfect turkey, designer napkins. Jack explaining market trends like he was on CNBC. Olivia was taking photos, angling the shot so Noah and I weren't in frame. Dinner was tense. Jack droned about stocks. Olivia bragged about a charity event, but didn't mention the fundraising totals. Weird, since that's usually the highlight. When dessert plates were cleared, the room went quiet in that way that means something's coming. Thomas rested his hands on the table and looked around. A large amount of money went missing from the safe 2 days ago, he said. 50,000. The words hung there. Jack's fork clinked against his plate. Olivia lowered her phone. Noah froze. I've been patient, Thomas continued, but that's over now. No one said anything. I waited for more details, but he wasn't offering them. Then Olivia spoke, soft and measured, like she was trying not to sound accusing, which made it worse. I saw Noah near the office that afternoon again, she said, and I found one of her pencils on the floor outside the door. My chair creaked when I shifted. You found a pencil, I said. It's something, she replied. Jack leaned forward, elbows on the table. Look, we're not idiots. A 12-year-old didn't crack a biometric safe on her own. But she's smart. You've said it yourself. And if someone showed her where the backup code was or left the desk drawer open, he let it hang. Margot picked up the thread, her voice careful. You were in that office last week, Sandra, fixing the computer. You were alone in there for 20 minutes. So, I said. So maybe Noah asked you a question, she said. Maybe you showed her something you shouldn't have. Or maybe you took it yourself and... Stop, I said. My voice came out harder than I meant. Jack spread his hands like he was being reasonable. We're just following the logic. 4 people have legitimate access. The money's gone. Either one of us did it, or someone got help from one of us. His eyes landed on me. And you're the only one here who needs money. Margot set her napkin down. I think a house search would be reasonable, she said. Just to be sure. Noah's face drained of color. She looked at me, then down at her hands. Jack leaned back. I'll say what everyone's thinking. If this happened anywhere else, the police would already be involved. Maybe that's the lesson she needs. Stop, I said. My voice came out sharper than I planned. We're not doing this. Thomas folded his arms. Then explain it. The safe was opened. There's no sign of forced entry. 4 people have the code. And I'm not one of them, I said. Olivia looked at Noah again. She's smart enough to figure things out. Noah's lip trembled, and she pressed her hands together to stop them from shaking. I didn't do anything, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Enough, I said, standing. You're not searching my kid. You're not calling anyone. If you're going to accuse her of something that serious, you'd better have proof. Jack laughed once under his breath. Then what do you suggest? 1 day, I said. Give me 1 day before anyone does anything. That's all I'm asking. Thomas stared at me for a few seconds, then nodded once. You have 24 hours. We left not long after that. The drive home was dead silent. Noah stared out the window like she wanted to disappear. Halfway back, she asked the question I was dreading. Is it my fault? No, I said, not even a little. When we got home, she went straight to her room. I waited until I heard her door close before I pulled out the small box that had arrived in the mail earlier that week. Motion sensor camera disguised as a smoke detector. Easy to install, Wi-Fi connected, low light capable. I'd also grabbed a second micro SD card and set up automatic cloud backup. If someone found the camera and destroyed it, the footage would still upload in real time. Belt and suspenders. I grabbed my tool bag and the little step stool from the closet and drove back to the house while I knew they'd all be asleep from too much food and dessert. The office smelled like leather and old books. The safe sat behind the bookshelf like a sealed vault. I climbed up and attached the camera in the corner of the ceiling where no one would think to look. Angled it so it covered the safe, the door, and the desk where Dad kept the backup code. Then I tested the cloud sync twice to make sure it was live. I checked the feed from my phone. Clear view, motion sensor armed. Back home, I peeked into Noah's room before I went to bed. She was asleep, curled up with a blanket pulled over her head. They're wrong, I said softly, even though she couldn't hear me, and we're going to prove it. I didn't know what I'd catch or how long it would take, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The next time something went missing, there'd be no stories, no guesses, and no way anyone could put my daughter's name on it again, or mine. 6 days after Thanksgiving, I was in bed, half asleep, when my phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was a random notification, but then I saw the alert from the motion sensor. Office movement detected. 1:14 a.m. My chest tightened. I opened the app. The camera feed showed the office door opening slowly. A figure stepped inside. The light was dim, but the night vision caught every detail clearly enough. It was Olivia. She wasn't rushing or panicked. She moved with purpose, calm and collected like this wasn't the first time. She slipped on gloves, pressed a few buttons on the safe's keypad, and waited. The lock clicked open. She pulled out a stack of cash, maybe 2, and stuffed them into a large designer tote. Then, before leaving, she reached into her pocket, pulled out a pencil, and casually dropped it by the door. One of Noah's, the same type she always used for sketching. I sat up in bed, staring at the screen. Every trace of doubt gone. My hands were shaking, but not from surprise, from anger. They had dragged my daughter's name through the dirt. They humiliated her, and all along, she was the one doing it. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I downloaded the video, backed it up to 3 different drives, and printed still frames with timestamps. I zoomed in on every frame until there was no possible way Someone could claim it was anyone else. Then I noticed something. The way she moved at the keypad. No hesitation, no fumbling. She knew the code by heart. Muscle memory. She'd done this before. Sunday brunch was my chance. Dad had planned a small get-together to talk as a family. I said yes immediately. When Noah and I arrived, Olivia was already there, dressed like she was going to a fashion shoot. Heels, expensive coat, makeup perfect. She barely looked at us. Jack was on his phone, silent. Margot greeted us with a brittle smile, and Dad stood by the kitchen island with a mug of coffee like he was preparing for a speech. We barely sat down before she did it. "I'm not dancing around this," she said, voice bright. "Noah stole the money." No warm-up, no testing the water. She lobbed it straight across the table and leaned back like a judge delivering a ruling. Noah flinched. Fork slipped and clanked. I pushed my chair back and stood up. I walked to the TV, plugged in the drive. "You're so sure it was her?" I said, staring right at her. "So sure it was me, that I'm some broke deadbeat who'd rob her own family and drag her kid into it?" I looked around the table. "You all decided that weeks ago, didn't you?" No one answered. "Then tell me, Olivia, what's your excuse for this?" I hit play. The video rolled. Empty office. Door opens. Olivia in frame. Gloves. Keypad. Safe yawns open. She takes stacks, neat and fast. No panic. Then the pencil drop. Her hand opens. The little yellow stick hits the floor and spins once. She leaves. Door shuts. Silence. Margot's hand went to her mouth. Jack stopped breathing, or looked like it. Dad didn't move. I let the silence sit for a second, then paused the video on the frame where Olivia drops the pencil. "See that?" I said. "That's her planting evidence to make you think Noah did it, to make you think I helped her." I turned to Jack. "You said I'm the only one here who needs money. Looks like you were wrong." Olivia didn't look at me. She looked at the ceiling like she was bored. "That's not what it looks like," she said. "Flat." "It's exactly what it looks like," I said. "You stealing and planting a pencil to point at my kid." "It was a loan," she said. I was going to put it back. "You don't understand what kind of pressure I'm under. Dad keeps promising help, then changing his mind. Jack's comp is all over the place. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. The kid's tuition is overdue. Our credit cards are maxed. I manage more than any of you see, and I had no choice." Jack spoke without looking up. "How long?" "Don't start," she said. "How long, Olivia?" She pushed her chair back a little. The scrape loud. "The watch was 6 months ago. The 3,000 was before that. I thought I could fix it before anyone caught on." Jack's face went pale. "A year? You've been stealing for a year." "Borrowing," she snapped. "This family spends like a brand. I keep it all lined up. Events, charities, the people who matter. That requires liquidity sometimes. Nobody complains when it looks good on the outside." I pointed at the screen, froze the frame with her face caught in the corner. Liquidity is not ripping a safe and blaming a 12-year-old and her mother. She flicked her eyes at me, annoyed. "I needed someone to take the fall. You were already struggling. It was believable." She said it like she was explaining a business decision. "If you just kept your mouth shut and let Dad write it off, none of this would have happened." Margot found her voice. "This can't be real. Maybe it's edited." I held up the second drive. Motion logs match the keypad access. Time sync on the footage and the device. "If you want, I'll walk your lawyer through it. Or the cops." Dad finally spoke low. "Change every code today. She doesn't touch the safe again." Olivia rolled her eyes. "This is ridiculous. I said I was putting it back. You're all acting like I burned the house down." She gestured at the table like a host, scolding rude guests. "Do you have any idea how much of this I plan? Who I chase for donations? Who I smooth over when Dad snaps at the wrong person? I keep this family from looking like amateurs." Jack stood up. "You keep this family looking expensive, not the same thing." She shot him a look. "Don't you dare. You don't even see the mess I clean up after your bad trades." He laughed once. No humor. "There it is. Blame everyone else. Question. Did you ever plan to stop?" She didn't answer. I stepped closer to the table. "Noah heard you last week at Thanksgiving. She heard her aunt say she stole. She hasn't wanted to come back here since. She won't even walk upstairs in this house. That's what you did." She lifted her chin. "She'll be fine. Kids bounce back." "Not from adults making them a target," I said. Dad's hands were on the island now, fingers white. "Olivia," he said, "you are out. Accounts, office, anything with access. Sophie will finalize it." Olivia's tone sharpened. You're really going to cut your daughter out because your other daughter can't pay her rent on time? This isn't about me, I said. It's always about you, she snapped. You get to be the martyr because you drive a cheap car and bring store pie, and somehow I'm the villain for making sure our name still means something in this town. Jack pointed at the TV. Villain has video now. She pivoted to Noah like she could talk past me. Sweetheart, nobody wanted to blame you. We were just worried. Noah looked at her lap. She didn't say anything. Her shoulders were tight. Don't talk to her, I said. Margot stood, chair legs scraping. We can handle this privately. No reason for police. People talk. I looked at Dad. I'm not here for your image. I'm here because my kid deserves her name back. Dad nodded once, eyes still on Olivia. You'll repay every dollar, he said. With terms. If you refuse, we go to the police. I don't care who hears. Olivia laughed, tiny and mean. You won't. You care too much about how you look. Try me, he said. She stared him down, then looked at Jack. You're with me on this. Jack shook his head. I'm with the facts. The room felt small. The air was tight. I pulled the drive from the TV and pocketed it. You took money, I said, and then you tried to take something you can't replace. You tried to make everyone believe I was a thief, that I'd use my own kid as a scapegoat. That's not pressure, that's character. Olivia folded her arms like a queen, bored of a petition. Go ahead, act righteous. When this blows over, I'll still be the one people call. Not in this house, Dad said. I touched Noah's shoulder. We're done here. No one stopped us. In the hall, I grabbed our coats. Through the front windows, I could see the perfect hedges and the 2 clean cars, and thought how none of it means anything if this is what sits behind it. In the driveway, Noah finally spoke. Are they going to believe it? They saw it, I said. Believing is their problem. She nodded, small, like that answer was enough for now. We got in the car. I started the engine. Behind us, the house stayed quiet. And for once, I didn't care what was happening inside. The Monday after that brunch, I sat across from Sophie in her office downtown. It was one of those clean, minimalist spaces with no clutter and too many certificates on the wall. She clicked her pen twice before she spoke, like she was rehearsing how blunt to be. Legally, this isn't just theft, she said, flipping through a thin folder. It's unauthorized access to secure property. If she touched any paperwork or digital files in that office, we could be looking at fraud too. The police would take it seriously. I nodded. What happens if we don't go that route? Then we go civil, she said. A restitution agreement, a repayment plan, and permanent removal from all financial accounts and trusts. Either way, Olivia loses all access, effective immediately. Your father's leaning toward not pressing charges. He's trying to protect the family name, I said. But I'll warn you, Sophie continued. Without legal action, it's easier for her to try something again. Boundaries have to be airtight. I understand, I said quietly. He'd rather lose the money than lose clients. That's always been his play. Sophie clicked her pen again. Just make sure he understands that civil restitution doesn't scare everyone the same way criminal charges do. Later that afternoon, I was at the house again. Thomas had every account binder and trust document spread out on the dining table. He'd been on the phone most of the morning with bankers and lawyers. She's gone from all of it, he said without looking up. No signature rights, no authority, no access. Olivia wasn't there. Jack was, briefly. He came in carrying a duffel bag and didn't even make eye contact. He told Thomas he was taking their daughter to stay with his brother for a while. He didn't say when he'd be back. I need space, was all he said before leaving. That night, Margot texted me. You didn't have to humiliate her like that. I stared at the message for a few seconds and then put the phone down without replying. By midweek, the story leaked. Anonymous posts on business forums, debt collectors calling the office. Olivia's carefully maintained image was collapsing in real time. She called me 3 times that day. I let everyone go to voicemail. The next morning, she showed up outside Noah's school. She saw her through the gate when they were lining up for recess and froze. The school called me immediately. I left work and drove straight there. She was standing near the sidewalk when I arrived, trying to talk to one of the staff. Leave, I said, walking up to her. I just want to talk, she said, eyes red, makeup streaked. No, I said, not here, not ever. The principal stepped outside and told her the police would be called if she came back. She left without another word. That was the day I made the therapy appointment. Noah had been quieter since Thanksgiving, but after that incident, she barely spoke at all. During the first session, she talked about the pencil. about Olivia's voice when she accused her, about how she didn't want to go upstairs anymore because bad things happen up there. The therapist gave her breathing exercises and a daily routine, 5 minutes talking about anything she wanted, no interruptions, simple but effective. After the session, in the parking lot, Noah asked if we had to keep going back. Only if you want to, I said. She thought for a second. I think I want to. I put a hand on her shoulder. Then we will. Life didn't slow down after that. It felt like every day something new fell apart. Another email, another rumor, another bill Olivia had hidden. But the lines were drawn now. She wasn't part of the accounts. She wasn't part of the house, and she wasn't coming near Noah again. It didn't fix everything overnight, but for the first time, it felt like the damage was contained, and that was a start. It was a Wednesday night when I realized Olivia wasn't finished. I was on my laptop sorting through bills and college savings paperwork when a notification popped up from the bank. At first, I thought it was a routine alert. Then I read it properly. Transfer attempt, $4,800, pending approval. It was from Noah's college fund. My stomach flipped. That account had 2 names on it once, mine and Olivia's. Back when she helped me manage bills during the divorce. I thought I'd removed her access years ago. I was wrong. I opened the dashboard. There it was, an active login from a device I didn't recognize. I killed the session and reset every password. Less than a minute later, there was a knock at the door. I checked the peephole, Olivia. When I opened the door, she was standing there in the hallway, trembling like she'd been running. Mascara smudged, hair a mess. Her tote bag hung off one shoulder like she'd thrown it on without thinking. I just need a loan, she said, voice shaky but determined. Please, Sandra, everyone's cut me off. I have nothing left. Did you try to take money from Noah's account? I asked. Her face twitched. I needed it. It's not like she's using it right now. It's her future, I said, and you don't touch it. She stepped forward, trying to get past me. I'll pay it back, I swear. I'll get a job. I'll fix everything. I just need a start. Leave, I said. No, she said quickly. You don't understand. I said leave. Her eyes darted around the apartment behind me like she was calculating how to stay inside. I'm your sister, she whispered. You're really going to turn your back on me? You already turned yours on us. The argument escalated fast. She refused to move from the doorway. I repeated myself over and over, each time louder than before. She started crying, then shouting, switching between anger and desperation. You think you're better than me? She yelled. You think you're perfect because you've got your boring little job and your sad apartment? Get out. A door down the hall opened. My neighbor, an older guy who usually minded his own business, peeked out. Everything okay here? I nodded quickly. It's fine, sorry. It wasn't fine. The shouting continued until another neighbor must have called the police. 10 minutes later, 2 officers showed up. One of them asked me what was going on, while the other pulled Olivia aside. She tried to access a bank account, I said. I want her to leave. The officer turned back to her. Ma'am, you need to go now. She glared at me, still crying, and for a second I thought she might push past them, but then she turned and walked toward the elevator. Just before the doors closed, she muttered, You'll regret this. I didn't press charges. I could have. The officer told me I had enough grounds to, but I just wanted her gone. The next morning, Sophie called me. I'm filing a restraining order for you and Noah today, she said. It'll keep her away from your apartment, her school, anywhere you two spend time. No physical contact, no calls, no third-party messages. She can still send mail for court-approved restitution payments. That's a standard exception. But that's it. Thomas is doing the same for the house. I agreed without hesitation. By the end of the week, the paperwork was done. The court order was official. Olivia couldn't come near us or the property without risking arrest. Thomas signed a new trust documents that removed her permanently from any family accounts. Jack filed his separation paperwork the same day. That night after dinner, I sat with Noah on the couch. She was building something with her robotics kit while a documentary played quietly on TV. I paused it and told her about the order. She can't come here anymore, I said. Not to the apartment, not to your school. That's the rule. For how long? She asked. For now, I said. Maybe not forever, but for now we're safe. And that's what matters. She nodded and went back to her project. For the first time in weeks, her shoulders didn't look so tense. 2 years passed. Life didn't snap back into shape, but it settled into something steady. I left my old job and joined a smaller cybersecurity firm. The pay wasn't as high, but I clocked out on time, and I was home for dinner almost every night. Noah was taller now, her voice steadier. She split her time between coding projects and drawing in a sketchbook she'd started during therapy, pages of rooms and doorways and empty hallways. Her therapist said it was about safety, about control. I think she was right. The family wasn't the same either. Thomas sold part of the company and retired quietly. He lived in a smaller house on the edge of town now, nothing like the old mansion. We saw each other once a month for lunch. We talked about normal things, the weather, work, sports. Whenever the conversation drifted toward the past, we both let it die on its own. Margot moved into a condo closer to the city. We spoke even less. When we did, it was polite but hollow, like two people pretending they'd never said the things they'd said. Jack remarried a year after the separation. I saw a photo online once. Him, his new wife, and his daughter in a backyard I didn't recognize. I didn't comment. I just scrolled past. And Olivia, she was still out there. Word was, she worked at a small diner one town over. I never went there, but I didn't need to. Once a month, a plain envelope showed up in my mailbox. Inside was a money order, always the same neat amount, always without a note. I scanned them and saved the receipts in a folder I'd labeled restitution. It wasn't forgiveness. It was a record. When Thanksgiving came around that year, it was different. Just our little rental house, a small turkey, mashed potatoes, and a pie. We actually baked ourselves this time. 2 coworkers who didn't have anywhere else to go joined us. We ate at the coffee table with the TV on mute, watching a game without really following it. It was simple. It was peaceful. And it was enough. After dinner, I was washing dishes when I heard Noah call my name from the door. There was an envelope on the mat outside, no return address. The handwriting was hers. I opened it at the table. It was just 1 page. I was wrong. All of it. I know I can't fix what I did to her. I'm paying back what I took. If she ever wants to talk when she's older, I'll be around. If not, I understand. That was it. No apology beyond that. No explanation, no begging, just those words. I folded the letter and carried it into Noah's room. There was a small wooden box on her shelf, old school projects, a photo of her smiling next to one of her early robot builds, and a few small keepsakes from when she was younger. I placed the letter inside and closed the lid. I didn't text anyone about it. I didn't call Thomas or Margot. I didn't even tell Noah right away. I just sat back down on the couch next to her. She was sketching something new, a machine with long arms and tiny gears. "What's this one?" I asked. "A sorting bot," she said. "I want to make it separate screws by size." "Think it'll work?" She nodded. "Yeah, I think so." I smiled. "Then let's figure it out." The night ended like that. No arguments, no accusations, just plans for something that hadn't been built yet. The past hadn't disappeared. It never would. But the noise was gone. The weight was lighter. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt like something we could shape instead of something we were just trying to survive. Blood, I realized, was complicated. It always would be. But trust, that was different. Trust wasn't automatic. It wasn't owed. It was something you earned piece by piece. And it was the one thing no one in this family would ever take for granted again.